Every dog has their day, and every man has their moment, but when it comes to punting, having a moment is never good enough. To be great on one punt or even one game is to never be great at all. So repeated excellence is all that we strive for day in and day out. No man in the history of football has had more moments than the man you're watching punt right now, Thomas Morstead. His long, illustrious career made most noteworthy as being a quiet, humble man and only letting his ability to punt a football speak for itself, and he makes pretty much little to no noise elsewhere. But in 2012, Morstead was going to leave his mark on history and cement himself as quite possibly one of the best to ever do it. But if you want to kick your tobacco habit as hard as Thomas Morstead kicks footballs, you got to hear about today's sponsor, Cannadips. Cannadips is a water-soluble pouch that has 10 milligrams of CBD with 5 great flavors to choose from, and each can has 15 pouches in it. So if you want to get your CBD fix in a way that's cooler than gummies or lotions, then this is your way, and the website for you is cannadipscbd.com using promo code PUNT, or just click my affiliate link in the description below. But back to punting. 2012 was a rough year for the Saints. The team was ravaged by scandals and everybody was on their back foot after Sean Payton was suspended. But as an individual player, nobody was going to have a better season than Morstead, who at the end of the year had an insane 50.1 yard average across 16 games. And it's not just that. What's so legendary about this is that he's not even being propped up by a couple of huge high average 60+ yard games. In fact, of the 16 games played, 10 of them had an average of 50 or more yards, and 12 of them had an average of 49 or higher. That means across those games, only 4 of them had an average of less than 49 yards per punt, which is absolutely nuts. So today, we'll be looking at that historic season and just what happened. First, we'll start off with a couple game-by-game breakdowns, because in game 1 was as strong as any on this list. 5 punts, 55-yard average, and you can tell from punt 1, Morstead was out for blood. He even had a beautiful 51-yard punt with 5.1 seconds of haying, which back in that day was so rare, the returner didn't even try to field it. He was controlled, he was poised, he had great angles on each punt, everything being fielded outside the numbers, and returners had one option: either take the lane in front of them or try to flip the field and get across. It was textbook. And the Skins in this game had no options but to take a couple short runs and get what they could. His next game was his first miss of 50 yards at only a 49.3 yard average, but that was only due to this beautiful punt caught at the 3-yard line, but it was only 35 yards. This is complemented by a 65-yard piss missile earlier in the game, and let's just take a second to look at that direction. It was maybe 1 or 2 degrees of an angle away from being perfectly on the sideline. He opens up the game with the Chiefs with a 70-yard nuke that rolls in for his second of what would become 6 touchbacks of the season. And if you want to know why I look up to this guy as a punter, watch how he reacts on this second punt. It's a 54-yard punt to the numbers, but it's a little low, and you can just see the visible frustration on this man. I mean, some guys don't like their punter showing any emotion, but gosh dang it, we're not robots. We take some pride in what we do. We celebrate when we do good, and we get a little mad when we don't. And hey, punt 3 shows you why it pays off to be a great punter, because when you have to line up 50 yards from a punt to make a catch, those 30-yard punts become a lot less punishing, and this one especially pays off. The next note I will play really comes later in that game after the Saints mount a huge comeback and take it to overtime, and now Morstead has to show while he'll always be a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion, and that's because of how clutch he is. They need a big play and to give him a fighting chance, and Morstead does just that. A 60-yard boot to put the Chiefs on the opposite side of their own 50, which requires them to get at least 2 first downs to get back into field goal range, and although that's what ends up happening, he makes it a lot harder for them. After an off week against the Packers, what comes next? Pure highlight reels. The back half of this season for Morstead is nothing but pure bliss. dimes being dropped inside the 10, eliminating returns by hitting the ball out of bounds. We were seeing a prime Thomas Morstead that any other prime punter in the history of football would have trouble dealing with. His direction, immaculate. His consistency, superb. He was playing at a level that would set records, leaving him having the 7th best season of all time when looking at gross average. Every game was clip after clip of him hitting 60-yard punt, perfectly placing the ball right on the sideline and allowing 0 touchdowns the whole season. This would lead to his first All-Pro team selection and his first Pro Bowl for the young legend in the making. And the way he does it is why so many punting coaches across the nation look to him for his form. The way his steps are so concise, short, the way he perfectly flips his hips. Watching him punt is like watching the world's best hair having jugs machine, and it's amazing. Every little detail in his performance is intentional without a single millisecond of wasted movement. A clean catch and mold, quick to get the ball placed immediately into his first step, then explode. This is why so many punters request for him to be in the Hall of Fame. His tenure in the NFL has revolutionized the way we punt. No more do you see punters taking these really long strides, trying to put everything into the ball. Morstead has shown us that short, precise, and controlled movements now are the dominating way to punt. You see it all the way from colleges to high school punting camps. But that's all that made this season so special for Thomas Morstead. On screen you have YouTube's recommended video versus my recommended video. But as always, I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and peace.
Maybe not able to finish this game, and these guys just got to step up and keep playing.
Sims dinged up last week. Today's his 28th birthday. He's on the sidelines. Terrific kick by Morstead, returning home. Played at SMU. Grew up in the Dallas area. Harris takes it out to the 25.